At 16, Emily felt like a storm trapped inside a human body. Every day began with tension and ended in conflict. Her parents, Mark and Lisa, remembered a time when their daughter used to laugh freely, talk about her dreams, and run into their arms after school. That girl now felt like a distant memory. In her place stood someone angry, withdrawn, and constantly defensive. School became a battlefield, arguments with teachers, declining grades, and multiple warnings about her behavior. At home, silence or shouting filled the space where warmth once lived. Emily's struggles weren't just rebellion, they were cries for help she didn't know how to express. She felt misunderstood, judged, and suffocated by expectations. Social pressure and online influence fed her insecurities, making her feel like she was never enough. She stayed up late on her phone, scrolling endlessly, comparing herself to people who seemed happier and more successful. Sleep deprivation only deepened her frustration, turning small problems into emotional explosions. Mark and Lisa tried everything. Therapy sessions came and went. Family meetings ended in tears. Grounding her only pushed her further away. They blamed themselves, wondering where they had gone wrong. Late at night, after Emily slammed her bedroom door once again, they sat at the kitchen table, exhausted and afraid. They didn't want to give up on their daughter, but they were running out of answers. That night marked a turning point. A family friend mentioned an idea that felt both desperate and hopeful, sending Emily to stay with relatives in the Philippines. A place far from negative influences, filled with family values, simplicity, and community. The thought terrified them. Letting go felt like failure. Yet, deep down, they sensed that a complete change of environment might be the only chance their daughter had to rediscover herself. As they looked at the closed bedroom door, they made the hardest decision of their lives, not to puss. Emily stepped off the plane in the Philippines with a heart full of anger and confusion. The air was thick and warm, clinging to her skin in a way she wasn't used to. Everything felt too loud, too crowded, too unfamiliar. She tightened her grip on her backpack as relatives she barely knew greeted her with smiles and open arms. To them, this was family. To Emily, it felt like exile. The drive to their home overwhelmed her senses, colorful jeepneys, street vendors calling out, children laughing barefoot along the roads. Nothing resembled the structured, controlled life she had left behind. When she arrived at the house, her frustration grew. It was small, simple, and always full of people. Cousins ran in and out, elders chatted for hours, and privacy felt like a luxury that didn't exist. Emily retreated inward, spending hours alone, staring at the ceiling, counting days until she could go back home. She resisted everything. The food tasted strange. The language felt foreign. She refused to join family conversations and avoided eye contact at meals. At night, she cried quietly, angry at her parents for sending her away and angry at herself for feeling so lost. She believed no one there could understand her pain. But what confused her most was how her relatives responded. There were no lectures, no punishments, no demands to fix her attitude. Her aunt simply asked if she'd eaten. Her uncle invited her to walk with him to the market, even when she said no. Her younger cousin sat beside her silently, accepting her presence without questions. Emily didn't realize it then, but something had shifted. For the first time in a long while, no one was trying to control her, only to include her. And though she fought it with every ounce of stubbornness she had, the constant patience and quiet kindness began to soften the anger she had carried for so long. The change didn't arrive like a sudden miracle. It came quietly, hidden inside ordinary days. One morning, Emily's aunt asked her to help prepare breakfast. At first, Emily agreed only to avoid another awkward silence. She stood in the kitchen, watching hands move quickly, chopping vegetables, stirring rice, laughing over small mistakes. No one rushed her. No one criticized her. When she finally tried helping, her aunt smiled as if it were the most natural thing in the world. That simple smile stayed with her longer than she expected. As days passed, Emily began leaving her room more often. She walked with her cousins to the small neighborhood store, noticing how people greeted each other by name. Strangers smiled without wanting anything in return. In the afternoons, she sat outside, listening to stories about family members who had struggled, failed, and tried again. For the first time, she heard adults speak honestly about pain, without shame or judgment. One afternoon, almost by accident, Emily joined a community volunteer activity. She helped pack food for families affected by flooding. At first, she felt out of place, but then she noticed the gratitude in people's eyes. A small child hugged her leg and whispered, "Thank you." That moment shook her. She realized she hadn't felt needed in a long time. The constant noise inside her mind slowly began to fade. Without endless social media scrolling and pressure to perform, Emily had space to breathe. She started writing in a notebook at night, thoughts she had never dared to say out loud. The anger that once consumed her softened into understanding. Emily didn't call it healing yet. But somewhere between shared meals, quiet walks, and unexpected kindness, she felt something unfamiliar growing inside her, a sense of peace. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel completely broken. Weeks turned into months, and the girl who once arrived angry and distant was slowly replaced by someone calmer and more present. Emily began waking up earlier, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Mornings felt lighter. She helped around the house without being asked, sharing quiet jokes with her cousins and listening to her aunt's stories while folding laundry. These simple routines gave her a sense of belonging she had never realized she was missing. Without constant noise and judgment, Emily finally faced the emotions she had been running from. Long walks through the neighborhood became her therapy. She reflected on the pressure she felt back home, the need to fit in, to appear perfect, to hide her pain behind anger. In the Philippines, no one expected her to be anything other than herself. That acceptance helped her forgive herself. Emily rediscovered her creativity. She began taking photos of everyday life, sunset skies, smiling faces, busy streets. She wrote poems about feeling lost and then slowly about finding her way back. When she shared her writing with her relatives, they listened with respect, not criticism. Their encouragement felt genuine, not forced. One evening, during a family gathering, Emily opened up about her struggles. She spoke about loneliness, fear, and feeling invisible. Instead of shock or disappointment, she was met with understanding. Her relatives shared their own stories of hardship, reminding her that pain was not a weakness but part of being human. That night, Emily realized something important: she was not broken. She had been overwhelmed. And in a place filled with patience, humility, and love, she had learned how to breathe again. The girl her parents feared they had lost was slowly returning, stronger, wiser, and more self-aware than before. When the day came for Emily to return home, her parents waited with mixed emotions, hope tangled with fear. At the airport, Mark and Lisa scanned the crowd, wondering what version of their daughter would walk through the doors. Then they saw her. Emily moved with a quiet confidence, her posture relaxed, her face calm. She smiled, truly smiled, and hugged them tightly, something she hadn't done in years. In that moment, both parents felt tears rise, sensing that something profound had changed. At home, the differences became impossible to ignore. Emily spoke respectfully and listened instead of reacting. She shared stories about her life in the Philippines, about family dinners, volunteer work, and the lessons she learned from people who lived with far less but gave so much more. She apologized for the pain she had caused, not out of obligation, but from genuine understanding. Her parents listened in disbelief. Emily wasn't suddenly perfect, and challenges still existed, but her approach to life had transformed. She no longer escaped into her phone for comfort. Instead, she journaled, took photos, and talked openly about her feelings. When conflict arose, she expressed herself calmly instead of exploding. Mark and Lisa realized that their daughter hadn't been fixed, she had been healed in a deeper way. The Philippines didn't change Emily through rules or punishment. It changed her through connection, simplicity, and unconditional acceptance. Her parents finally understood that sometimes love means letting go, trusting that distance and a new environment can do what control never could. And as they watched Emily rebuild her life with strength and clarity, they knew their hardest decision had also been their wisest.